South Africa and the world today watched with amazement as the outgoing chairman of the African Union, Robert Mugabe, blasted the United Nations, accusing it of having imperialist tendencies. Though not the first time he was taking on the UN and the West for what he called sidelining the African continent, Mugabe's speech appeared to have more venom today as he threatened to mobilize the continent to ignore the United Nations if reforms are not instituted at the Security Council.
The 26th session of the African Union Summit brought forth another dispensation meant to chart the way forward for the African continent. The forum also saw the end of a one-year term for 94-year-old Robert Mugabe, who handed over the union's chairmanship to Chad President Idriss Déby. But Mugabe would not bow out of the stewardship of the union without another salvo of his characteristic no-holds-barred slamming of the West, and this time particularly the United Nations.
This is the body of respected people, the body of Africa. So I wonder whether you have told them that we also are humans.
Mugabe said that he would urge African states to withdraw from the United Nations if reforms were not done in its Security Council to include African states, urging that 2 African states needed to be included in the decision-making process of issues dealing with peace in the African continent.
If we decide, as we shall certainly do so one of these days, that down within the United Nations we are not members of it, others are real members of it, we are artificial members of it, and we can't continue to be artificial members of it.
The president of Zimbabwe hit out at the United Nations, claiming that most of its member states did not have any interest in issues affecting the African continent. His fiery statement coming barely minutes after the speech by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
I will continue to give you my strongest support until I leave this privileged position and hand over to my successor. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us work together to make this world better for all, for our succeeding generations.
If the United Nations is to survive, we must be equal members of it.
The summit, sharply focusing on gender issues and women empowerment, comes on the backdrop of several challenges facing the continent, especially on matters terror and the current civil crisis affecting Burundi. Timothy Otieno, KTN.